Okay, looking at my Harbor Freight jack stands, I've had these for decades. So this pair I bought in the late 90s. This pair I bought right around 2000. So supposedly they're safe. You know, they're built long enough ago that they didn't have the manufacturing problems they did just a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, whenever that came out, with the Harbor Freight jacks failing. So I thought, well, it's been plenty time. You know, they're 20 years old. They're fine. But I still doubled up on them. You know, I'd still never get into the car without, if I had 2 jack stands like under the rear axle, I'd set the rear axle on it and I'd leave the jack underneath the differential tightened down, you know, make sure the tension was on the jack as well. And I doubled up on everything. I always had it jack and jack stands if I was getting under the vehicle. So I feel safer about that. It's still not 100%, but I thought, well, maybe I should check and see if the pawls are worn out on these or how much the pawls are engaging. So it's been a little bit of an adventure. Basically what I did though is I took these out so that I could slide these out, and I'll show you what I did. I've done a couple of these already. I've done this jack and this jack already, but these two I checked today, and here's how I did it. Getting this tab bent out is a little bit of a pain. I broke a big screwdriver off doing that, so I don't recommend using a screwdriver because it looks like you can just put it back there and pry it out, and it's pretty stiff stuff. What I ended up using was this little pry bar with this little bend on it like this, sliding it up in here, putting it on that tab right there, and then prying it up. I was standing on this end of it, standing on this end of the jack, and just bouncing it up and down until I bent it up enough, okay? So that allows this to come out. Now what I did here, let me get my light so you can see what I did. I painted that red with wet spray paint, okay? And you can see the line that's on it, okay? So what I did was I wanted to know how much the pawl was engaging. Now, if you look here, the handle falls all the way down. If you look here, the handle doesn't fall all the way down, okay? So that tells you it's engaging. The pawl is hitting the actual notch here, but how much is it engaging? That's what I really wanted to know. I knew it was engaging, but I didn't know how much. So what I did was I spray painted that red, then I dropped this in like this, okay? And then I just took a little wire like this, reached down inside and scratched along that back side, okay, as close as I could. And then I shone my light down there just to make sure that I was scratching right along the edge of this right here, okay? Now, this wobbles back and forth a little bit, but that's engaged right there. If weight's on it, that's where it's going to sit. So I didn't do it with it tilted either direction, okay? I did it where the weight would be sitting on it just like that, with it neutral. All right, then pulled it out and then looked at my scratch mark, okay? That's my scratch mark, that distance right there. This wire, I bent the tip of it. Sorry, I'm trying to do this through the camera. It's not working too good. And that's the distance right there. Okay? From the back side of the wire to the end of that hook. Okay? So that's the distance right there. And then I took this and put it right here and made sure that that distance matched. And it does. Okay? So that pawl is engaging this fully. And that makes me happy. You know, I also thought about using some kind of gear marking compound and building it up in here and then just running it up and down and seeing where the pawl hit inside here. I think that would work as well. But that makes me feel pretty good that this is engaging pretty completely, okay? Okay, and then I got to thinking, you know, this could happen to any manufacturer anytime. If their tooling's wearing out and their quality assurance isn't catching it, you don't want to be the first to find out, right? So I did the same thing here. I spray painted the top of the pawl here, set this in here, then on this particular jack model, you can actually see the pawl where it goes inside the tooth, okay?
So what I did was I just made this little hook on a piece of wire. It's just not going to focus, is it? Anyway, I just bent a little piece of wire so I can put it up inside here. Okay, and I can contact the back of the tooth and then make a scratch mark right along the back side of the tooth on top of the pawl. So I did that a whole bunch of times. I let the paint dry, okay? If you do it when it's wet, it'll just kind of backflow and fill your mark, and then you won't know where you're marking. I already tried that. That's how I know, okay? So just scratch it and scratch it and scratch it. I mean, it doesn't have to be all the way dry, but mostly dry. And then, let's take it out and look down inside there. And you can see where the light gray, I'm sorry, the light red compared to the dark red is right about there, right? So that's my scratch mark right there. Okay, so that means that much of the pawl is engaging. Now if I take my little marker, my little wire here that I bent, and let's see how far back that is. So it's actually a little bit wider than this mark right, than my, the pawl engagement inside the teeth are a little bit more than the width of my bent wire. See that? But if we take it over here and put it inside here, let's just put it right up beside one of these teeth. There we go. You can see that that's plenty. It's fully engaging. Now, taking some gear marking compound and packing it in there and running it up and down could also tell you. I feel pretty confident in this for myself. This is my own safety. I'm not telling you what to do. This is your life you're putting at risk. I'm not going to retire them. I'm going to keep using them because they're still engaging fine. Now, I'm still going to back up my jack stands. I don't trust just jack stands ever, ever, ever to get under a vehicle. So I always have a backup. I always have a jack under, or I double my jack stands. If you watch my videos on my Foreigner front shock change, you can see I'm double backed up with 4 jack stands instead of just 2. So, you know, you got to take your life seriously if you're going to work on your own stuff. So am I more confident in my jack stands now? Yes. Am I 100% confident in them? No. And I would never be 100% confident in any manufacturer of any jack stand. I'm always going to back it up. If I'm underneath the vehicle, even with the wheels on and the tires on, if there's a chance that can fall and squish me, then it's getting backed up. If I'm getting under the vehicle, I'm using jack stands and a floor jack underneath the differential or the axle, or I'm doubling the jack stands or something, okay? So I'm not ever 100% confident in anything, especially when I'm laying underneath something that can squish me. So, you know, if you're going to work on your own stuff, I'm not saying this is an endorsement that this makes your jack stand safe. I just did this for my own confidence and my own peace of mind that the tooling on these wasn't worn out when these are made, and that they are engaging well, and I'm confident in using them, but I'm always going to back them up.